We will start from the fourth line in Nun Dalet, page Kuf Lamed Gimel. We are now focusing in on a different arena, what the Rebbe called Hislapshus B'koiches HaRuchniim. Koiches Ruchniim are mislabish from one and the other. It's a completely different type of Hislapshus than we talk about, like, for example, hazrika. In Zerika, which we discussed quite extensively, in the throw, even though the throw is a physical act, and yet there is a sechel element in it, in terms of directing the throw and so forth. Not only directing, but the intensity of the throw, and the speed and so forth. But then there is the hislapshus sechel in terms of what does this throw mean to him. Not only in a practical sense, but on a personal sense. And here we're going to be coming to a principle of hislapshus on a different level.
I was thinking, if one day you had to speak in front of a very large audience, not secular Jews, instead of being a stone, it would have much more impact if you spoke about a baseball ball.
Thank you very much. But I try to be the Rebbe's Talmid.
Okay, fine. Amen.
We can use it as an addendum. Okay, I said 4 lines from the top. Hazrika, in order that the throw should be a proper throw, there has to be a sechel in it. And there's a hislapshus sechel. Again, hislapshus means that the sechel is actually identified with this throw. It is not merely directing it, but there's a personal aspect in the sechel that it identifies with this throw. Let us elaborate slightly in this. Identified with means that the sechel appreciates a good throw. Not only, as you said, in the competitive arena, but the sechel appreciates and understands what a good throw is. And therefore the sechel actually relates to it. However, there's a different a fundamental difference in the hislapshus. And we said 4 lines, hislapshus sechel should be tziyur, the hislapshus, okay, at the end of the 4th line. However, there is no comparison. Hislapshus sechel should be tziyur, the hislapshus should be zika. Of the engagement of the sechel in the tziyur and making a picture, relative to his to engagement of sechel in the throne. And now we're going to discuss what is the difference. The yois, for due to the fact that this is the very lowest, we find the furthest koyach in movement. This is a koyach that represents the koyach hatanua on a very low level, very distant level. Therefore, lo yesh b'zeh his kalos hasechel kolkach. There is not a hisgalus, a pronouncement and a relation of the sechel kolkach to that extent. The sechel cannot associate with the koyach hatanua at that level to a great extent. It can direct it and so forth, but it cannot really associate. In other words, it cannot really appreciate this action. And here's the few words that I'm aiming at. Ve'einoi behergesh pnimi b'koyach hatanua. The sechel is not hergesh pnimi, in an internalized type of a sense in the koyach hatanua. The sechel does not appreciate the koyach hatanua and the throw. He does not appreciate the throw b'hergesh pnimi. What is the hergesh pnimi? Let us translate it to ourselves. These are important terms. Hergesh means a sense. And we discussed the meaning for the sense. What does a sense mean? Either you understand it or you don't understand it. We're talking about sechel. So we explained. Sechel, yes, sechel has a practical question. How do I do this? But in order to identify and to come up with an explanation how I do this, one has to be interested and appreciate what he's doing. In other words, like coming back to the stone, to throw the stone, he can even speak about the stone has to be thrown straight and has to come to this target. But in order to get the sechel involved in this throw, one has to appreciate the significance and the sechel quality in this time of a throw. If it remains simply an act, a physical act, the sechel identifies it and can explain it, but it does not have a personal stake in it. This means it doesn't have a hergesh pnimi. A personal sense of what this is about. What is the whole union of hergesh and Ikea come in? If you talk about sechel, I said, either you understand it, sechel has a structure to it, and one thing leads to the other. So we explained way back when. We have to know that in sechel itself there is many madrigas, many levels. All the way up to the highest level of the source of sechel is called rotzen and oinig. Rotzen and oinig cannot be fully identified and described what it is. Rotzen anointing is a koyach, is in the nefesh itself. It goes all the way to the point to the question, or to the point. I want to live, regardless of what I'm doing. This is rotzen anointing. My life, to me, means much more than overcoming challenges, than proving myself. It's a reality in itself. This is rotzen anointing. You cannot even identify what this is and why does he have it. And we pointed out a few days ago that in fact the rotzen anointing is not even a worldly phenomenon. It's a divine phenomenon. The reason there is such thing as rotzen anointing is because this whole thing is initiated. Please understand the significance of what initiated. Initiated is a very significant thing. What is the beginning of this? What is the initial reason why I get involved in this? Why there is a world? There is no worldly explanation why there is a world. The world cannot justify itself for being there. This initially it begins from Breishis Bora Elokim. This is the Meibash's thing. This is a godly thing. This godly element, which is the beginning of everything, is also bestowed and granted in the nefesh Adam. Like we said, there is the nefesh Adam senses that it's important that things should be right. Not that things should survive and be, but they should be right. Because right is a reflection of the fact that this is a godly thing. In other words, the hergesh pnimi. What is the essence of sechel? Why do I seek to make sense of this? Why does sechel come up with an explanation of this? This is not just an external thing. I can prove that this causes this causes this. Like the secular approach.
It's deeper than that because it corresponds or does not correspond with make it right.
That's right.
Okay.
Make it right is sourced.
Yeah.
Please, what is sourced? It's sourced in that right is is the source of everything.
Okay.
This is reality. Because reality is a godly thing. There is not a reality in the world per se. I said the world cannot justify and explain itself is its own being here.
Right. And one of our points here is that this element is also reflected in all the various faculties, koyach hazrika. The hand senses, is it right or not right? Is satisfied or dissatisfied or not?
Well, just a little modification. The hand senses that right and not right is significant.
It matters if this was done correctly or not.
That's right.
Okay.
Because the hand at the lowest level of zrika is representative of a koyach nefesh. When a human being throws, it is a completely different throw than when an animal goes throwing and kick and throws.
Right, that's one point, and the other point seems to be, like we've been saying, that the faculty itself, somehow the hand,
Yeah,
appreciates or rejects the throw.
that's right.
Okay.
Because this koyach, this ability to throw, is also rooted in a divine principle. The reason a human being is able to throw is not because he's able to move his hand. He's able to throw because this is part of a design that the REBBE should put into the human being. Every ability the human being has has a divine buttress and a base.
Right. You may think that's all centralized in the moyach and the sechel adam, but we're kind of saying it's distributed, and the hand rejoices in a good throw.
Sechel identifies it. But every koyach is a living koyach in and of itself. This is what we're saying here.
Okay.
And this is what we're saying over here, that in koyach hazrika there is not a hergesh pnimi in koyach hatmur. When it comes to the throw, sechel understands what a throw is, but it does not have a hergesh pnimi in it. What means pnimi? Pnimi means sensing it before the challenge comes up to throw. Senses it on a personal basis. There is sechel in the koyach hatnur, but the sechel does not relate to the koyach hatnur in an internalized manner.
By where? What does not relate?
The sechel does not
By hazrika.
hazrika.
Okay.
The koyach pnimi. Okay, the Rebbe explains what he means actually. Where do we see that? That's not hergesh pnimi. But al kain, for this reason, because it's not hergesh pnimi in koyach hatnur, when one accustoms himself and become practiced in the throw, he does not need to focus how to throw. He becomes so accustomed and so practiced that then he does not have to focus how to throw. And this is not the end of it, please. So let's stay with it. When you say he doesn't have to think how to throw, that means that this sechel has already been dismissed. Now the koyach hazrika is able to do it on its own. And then you don't need a sechel, the explanation as to what you're doing and why you're doing it. So therefore the sechel doesn't have to be involved in this thing. Ube'emes, however, in truth, gam oz, even then, even after that that there is complete accustomed, complete practice in the throw, and he doesn't have to think how to throw because he is being practiced. Even then, yesh bozeh hislapshus haseichel. There is in this throw, hislapshus haseichel, the engagement of the seichel, rak shu behelem betachlis, except that it's an extreme concealment. In other words, it does not announce itself. It is there in the background, absolutely, but it doesn't announce itself. It is known internally to the sechel itself. So that at that point when you throw, it seems that it is just an external throw, a physical hand movement, because it becomes so habitual that he doesn't have to think how to do it. But in fact, this is not true. There is a slapshus haseichel there also. There is a sense of significance of this action, even at the point where you don't have to contemplate how to do it. Except that this sense of significance is behelem betachlis. Is behelem, concealed to the extreme. Betachlis means to the extreme. Let's examine this for a moment. When you have a precise throw, precise throw consists, physically speaking, we can explain exactly how it happened. Physically, the hand was moved exactly at this speed and in that direction, and the stone was released exactly at that point, and therefore it flew. This can be duplicated on a robotic level perfectly. And it would seem to be that this is exactly what's taking place. Just the action aspect, not the sechel, not the significance of it, not the sechel element and the sense of it. So the Rebbe says, yes, this is how it will appear to be. However, the sechel is there anyway, in pnimis, in a very subtle manner. Except it is concealed in total concealment, betachlis, in total concealment. So the question that we have to attend to ourselves: what is the sechel doing there if it's not needed? And what is the effect of its being there in a concealed level? The real meaning of these words, that once he gets accustomed to it, he has been trained, now he can throw without engaging the sechel. How does that really come about? The throw is a sechel throw. Except what happened was that the sechel aspect that engaged in this throw has already been trained into the hand. And now we're going to ask a kotzkash. Does the hand know that it's doing it right, or it doesn't know that it's doing it right?
It does.
Oh. So we say the hand knows that it's doing it right, but he doesn't have to contemplate it. He doesn't have to plan it, because he has been trained to do it right. But it allows itself to do it because it is right. The hand at that point does not become a dumb hand that is just throwing. It's still a human hand. He's still doing the right thing. Except doing the right thing has been practiced enough that now he doesn't have to contemplate how to do it. But he's still aware that he's doing the right thing. And this is the sechel. The sechel is betachlis hahelem. Sechel has to speak to a person. Begin to do it this way. He's betachlis hahelem. He doesn't have. But it's still there's still a sechel underpinning. In other words, I'm doing it right, without even considering that I'm doing it right. This is what the Rebbe says. The slapshot ha-seichel is there anyway. What means the slapshot? The seichel is engaged in this action. If you ask him, what are you doing? He'll say, I'm throwing. That means he knows up his seichel what he's doing. Except it's betachlis hahelem. Behelem betachlis. It is concealed to the extreme, meaning the seichel does not announce its arrival.
I remind myself that in the past was given a mashal on this thing that a soldier is being attacked and he doesn't have time, and in 1 second he practices the most difficult concentration to target because he was trained before, and this comes like automatic how to shoot on the target.
No. There is no. I don't. This has been taken a little bit out of proportion. The soldier can automatically set the rifle, move the bullet in place, put the rifle on his shoulder. That he can do automatically. But to shoot the target, he has to focus. Absolutely. He has to align all the points on the gun to the target, and then he'll shoot. Otherwise, it's not going to shoot properly.
Yeah, but it was explained that
how can he focus in a split second. He can do it very quickly, but nevertheless, he has to focus.
Yeah, he has to focus.
But here we're talking about that he's not. He's saying he doesn't have to engage his sechel.
Yeah, but it was explained that the ability to be able to focus so fast comes from the training from before.
No. But again, you don't confuse the two things. There's a function in the seichel action. Here we're saying something else.
I see. Okay, I'm sorry.
The seichel is behelem betachlis. So my question is, if it's behelem betachlis, what is its significance being there? The significance of its being there. This is important. The significance of its being there is that there is an awareness that he's doing something and he's doing something right. Even though he doesn't have to align himself with this doing it right.
Rabbi PALTIEL, could he do it wrong?
I'm sorry?
Could the hand misfire?
The hand is trained to be bottled to the seichel and to do exactly the way the seichel wants it to do. Sure, it could. That's what training is all about. This Indian that even then there is a slapshus ha-seichel, and the Rebbe says not the presence of seichel, but his slapshus ha-seichel.
What's the difference?
The difference is presence of seichel that you can know from a distance. The slapshus ha-seichel means that you are engaged in this action, and you are interested in this action. Das means the slapshot sechel. Because this action is rooted in what we said. We said in principle that to do it right is something which is part of the action itself.
To do it right is part of the action itself.
And that is where the sechel comes in, and sechel is very active on doing it right.
Right. Let's say I'm typing something, so there's distance and there's hislapshus. I cannot be too involved in, which key to press next. I have to type. I remain distant from it and I get it done correctly.
Alright, so here is the thing. Typing is much closer to the other example of tziyur, of painting, than to a throw. Although, like you said, it seems almost automatic. But it definitely is not.
It in fact needs to be, to a fairly high degree, pretty automatic.
Throw. But what is automatic? I need to try to put in an A. And it's automatic, my hand finds the A. But I know what I need to do. I need an A.
Mm-hmm.
This knowing that there is an A, this is a sechel dikin.
So it's fair to say it's mislabesh, but yet to some degree distance here.
That's what I said. It's behelem betachlis.
Okay. But not by painting, or yes, by painting too.
By painting also, but no. See, painting is let's continue on.
Okay.
In melechas hatziyur, in the act of tziyur, yesh bozeh hislapshus v'hisgalus hasechel. There is a hislapshus and hisgalus hasechel. There is actually the pronouncement of the sechel, yoser, more than it is in the throw, even after the throw has become habitual. Ubibchinas hergesh pnimi yoser. And this is important. And there, this is slapshus hasechel, and the sense and the gila is in a bechinas hergesh pnimi, in a greater degree of hergesh pnimi, of an internal sense. What's mean internal sense? Internal sense means that the koyach, the koyach hatnua that represents this painting appreciates this input of the sechel. The koyach hatnua says, what my sechel is saying is right. I appreciate it. That could be pnimi. Watching, a painting, an adept painting, making a plain real, a picture, even a sketch. You will notice, and I have somebody to confirm or to deny, that it's almost automatic that certain lines are made more pronounced, sharper, and certain lines are lighter. To the extent that at some point he starts feigning with a pencil a shadow, a shade, and the shadow does not have precise lines, and then automatically, so to speak, the hand becomes so flowing, so to speak, floating above the page, so the pencil hardly touches the page, but it's there. This comes from the hergesh pnimi, that comes from an internal sense of what he is doing. He is not just making lines. He is actually representing a shade. This presenting a shade. This is the sichli he slaps us in the head, in the koyach hatnu, because the koyach hatnu per se doesn't know what that is. But the sechel is mislabish in the koyach hatnu, the pnimi, so that the koyach hatnu knows what it's doing. It's producing a shade. Because the sechel is telling you you're producing a shade. This is called bislapshus hergesh pnimi. I'll take one more minute. A shade is produced by making lines, very subtle light lines. As far as the head is concerned, he's making light lines. But this is not what he's really doing. Even the koyach hatnuah, which is just a movement, knows that he's not just making lines, but he is under the control of the sechel to make a shade. So that the slapsus pnimi, the koyach hatnuah is now imbued with the sechel. You're not making lines, you're making a shade. And that's where the koyach hatnuah becomes so light-handed, so to speak. It lifts the hand off the page and allows it to touch the page with just the proper intensity that it should be a shade, not a line. This is due to the sechel that's mislabish there. But the sechel is mislabish be'efon pnimi, which means that the koyach hatnuah relates to it. Or the sechel relates to the koyach hatnuah. The sechel embraces the koyach hatnuah in this point and allows it to produce a sichli concept rather than a physical concept. Confirmed? All right. We need to speak a bit on the meaning of the significance of the fact that the sechel is there even at that level. Even the koyach hazrika and the koyach, even on the furthest there's the sechel there. Except it's a behelam betachlis. This aspect that the sechel continues to be there is important, and we'll discuss it next time. Have a great day.
The question which I
to remain on this call, press
Thank you,
1.
PALTIEL. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Eli.
Yeah.
the question which I asked yesterday in the end, that the answer was I should answer it by myself. I couldn't answer it, but after this year, I understand the answer.
Baruch Hashem. That's what we had this year also.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, kol tov.